Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I am Devin Jordan. I'm with Trace Armstrong and no Rob McIntyre. We are here to cover episode 9 of Spies, Lies, and Allies. And Trace gets to hear this for the second time in less than 5 minutes, where Cory was as shocked as Rob when he found out our podcast didn't record this morning. So if you jumped on it early enough and you heard it for the few hours that it was out, we attempted to record a podcast this morning with Rob and Pat Mayo and no Trace. Trace is now here. That podcast did not fully record. We got about 35 minutes of good content. And then for the last half an hour, Pat Mayo pretty much disappeared. So, as a bonus, we will append that content to the end of this episode. If you want to listen to it, the 35 minutes that was good, it's there. Always great to have Pat on. Have fun with it. Rob is not here. Trace is back. Episode 9.
Schedules. You know what, man? They might have saved the whole fucking season with this episode.
Dude, that's what I thought. Like, I thought this, well, I don't know if they saved the whole season. I thought this episode was incredible, too. Like, I thought it was really good.
I mean, it's a situation where my expectations every week kept getting lower and lower and lower for this season. And then all of a sudden, it, like, shot out of a cannon tonight. We had vet drama. We had politics. We had a phenomenal daily challenge. We had a great elimination. We had backstabbing. We had people not trusting each other. Welcome back to the fucking challenge.
I thought it was superb. I think you pretty much summarized all of the good parts about it that I liked. Good mission. I don't even know where we want to start with this. I mean, let's start with everything. Well, you didn't even mention the twist yet either, right? You didn't mention the twist that occurred.
I forgot about the twist.
Episode.
Hey, so, I predicted this was coming, by the way. I was like, this thing's going individual. It's coming, and it's on its way.
We looked at the amount of episodes that were left, and we looked at the amount of pairs that were left, and there were going to be 2 weeks more than they had pairs to be able to eliminate if they wanted to have 4 pairs left in the finals, right? So they had to do something to extend the season. Yep. Going individual seems like it would be a logical thing to do because they would be able to have an elimination every single week, right? And still have enough people for the final. And some weeks they could have eliminate 2 people per week. Some people they could eliminate 1 person per week.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see a pretty big. The twist is either going to be one of 2 things. They're going to do a purge next week and then redraft pairs, or this thing's going all individual. There's no other permutation of this that makes sense.
So something that Pat came up with a few ideas this morning for what it could be, and I think we were both in agreement, Rob and I, with Pat, that it's going to go individual. They're going to do some type of contest where they repick pairs, and so everyone has a new pair, and then those are the pairs for the rest of the season, or it's just a way to reshuffle the pairs, right? What would your desired outcome be? What would you wish really happened?
I really want to see them go do an individual and purge the bottom 2, redraw pairs, and then do another elimination. That's what I'd want to see. But we don't have enough. We have too many episodes for that. So I really think this is going individual, just straight up. They can alternate male and female the rest of the way for 7 episodes, get rid of 7 more people, and everybody else goes to the final. I mean, or they can eliminate a couple. They could change this up every week now for all I care. At this point, we really don't know what's going to happen, and that is a welcome change. I feel like this whole season, there's been zero mystery of what's going to happen, and now they've got me going, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. And ironically enough, I think Rob was actually onto something where CT might be in trouble here, because it seems like the vets that haven't won are gonna do what they can, but it didn't really play out because then Cory went in and so did 2 rookies. So who knows?
So that's a thing that Pat and I vehemently disagreed with Rob on, right? Mm-hmm. Like Pat and I did not. Pat thinks that CT is going to win. I don't think CT is going to win. I just don't think that CT is going to be repeatedly thrown in like Rob thinks that
I don't think he's
that
going
could
to be
potentially happen.
repeatedly thrown in.
They're
No,
just it just doesn't make sense. There's not enough time, right? There's not enough time. There isn't a whiff of him going in yet. Devin was the first person that mentioned it today throughout the entire course of the season. I think Devin's mentioned a couple of times. And so Pat wanted that to be very clear. He wanted to, the record will not show it in the recordings, but it did exist where Pat and Rob made a wager of Rob gave Pat 10-1 odds, which I thought was extremely generous.
that's very generous odds.
Where I think Pat bet $10. So if CT wins the final, Pat stands to win $100. If he doesn't win, Rob wins 10. So it'll be interesting.
I'd have taken that bet. That's a good bet. 10-1
because
odds.
that's not honestly like much different than like just like even chance, right? Because like how many men are left?
8, I think.
So what? I don't.
You got Logan. You got
Here,
CT.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right.
There's 9 men left. Okay.
So an even chance, like if you assume that everyone like had an even probability, 1 divided by 9, that's 11%, right? And he gave him Rob's implied probability on what he gave him is 1 divided by 11. That's 9%, right? So he didn't give him like much worse than like even chance. I don't know. Like I mean, I don't think he's gonna win, but at those odds, I still might have taken it. You know what I mean?
With those odds, I mean, if I'm gonna risk 10 to make 100, I'll take that bet every time, no question.
On CT too.
Yeah, right? It's not like you're betting on Nelson here. You know what I mean?
Because when we talked about this, and there's already been some conversation about this in Discord that I've seen throughout the day. Who is CT losing to in a potential elimination here? Like
in this group of people that's left now, depending on the elimination, I think Logan's got the best chance out of anybody, to be honest with you, because I just can't see Nelson getting it together in an elimination against CT. I could see Nelson psyching himself out. I can't see Cory beating CT. I don't see Devin or Kyle beating CT. So really, like, Logan to me would be your best bet.
Because the issue is that Nelson and Cory have fatal flaws, right? And at that point, they would be like completely reliant on their partner to do the puzzles. And if it goes to a situation where there are no longer pairs, right? So after next week, if this is individual, that screws them even more. Because who is like straight up, like on even, like it's not even like you could like pin CT with a really weak partner. It's not like you could put him into an elimination with Big T or, and this is another thing that we mentioned earlier today, that the women at this point are a pretty strong group. They're pretty formidable, right? The worst would be Bettina at this point, but she even performed well last night.
I think she's better than Big T, if I'm being honest.
I don't know. So Big T was pretty impressive in the daily mission today, right?
Yeah, she wasn't terrible.
Well. The format. So let's talk about the daily mission a little bit, right? I thought it was very good. It pretty much followed what we've talked about for a while, right? Everyone goes at once, right? Everyone goes at once. You can kind of see the progress of everyone. It's quick. They didn't stretch it out super long. The one thing that I did say is that I wish that I think it would almost be kind of cool if they did it without the mud, right? And so that way it was like a little bit faster, right? And a little bit like kind of, I don't know, a little bit different. Pat made the comment that he wishes that it wouldn't come down to one ball at the end where there's people fighting for it and you pretty much have to like make a political decision and make some type of agreement. After he mentioned that later today, I did think about how it almost would be cool if it was the person that puts their last ball in first, right? So there wasn't that one ball left. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, they've done similar things in the past, like the duel one, you know, where it's basically just musical chairs in the mud with the ball. They've done it on several different challenges and many different permutations. And all they did was add an explosion and a silver ball to a twist on an old challenge mission. So
was there an explosion?
Yeah, there was an explosion at the end of it when Nani and Logan hit the thing. Fire went off behind them and an explosion occurred. Seriously.
I mean, in my notes, I wrote that down. Like, this cost nothing to do, right?
No,
This is like a fraction of what it cost some of the other ones. It's like some soccer balls, some spray paint, and some mud. That's what
and
this
some
took.
bamboo. Yep. No, it doesn't take much. And that's why the thing is man, simplicity sometimes is your friend. It doesn't mean you can't spend some money on some cool death defying missions. It just means you don't need it every week. Like there are ways to do this and it's still good. Like you don't always have to show your cards by renting a Lambo and running it down a runway and TJ stepping out with the wind blowing in his hair. Like it's not necessary all the time. Once a season, okay. Every week, I'm out.
All right. We have to talk about the moment when Cory breaks down the alliances in the house. For me, that was one of the moments when I'm like, these guys are never going to win. Like,
No.
it like literally takes so much for these guys to win. Cory breaks down the alliances. He says there's three groups in the house. There's Devin and his group, which consists of Devin, Kyle, CT, and Ed.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Big Brother group, which consists of Josh, Casey, Nani, and Emmanuel. And there's quote unquote us, that consists of Cory, Nelsie, and Jeremiah. After 8 seasons of doing this, Nelson's second biggest ally in this group is Jeremiah. How the fuck is this possible?
It's so inexplicable that I don't even know what to do with it. Like, Nelly T, let me just be clear here. They made it very clear that Nelson and Ashley had been hanging out / hooking up in Austin, where they both live down the street from each other. And then they get on the show and he starts hanging out and cuddling with a rookie. Now, there's a term on the challenge called politicking, and Nelson played that wrong on this season. You know what I mean? If you've got Millionaire Mitchell as a friend with whatever back home, and then you come on the show and kick her to the curb, like that's bad for your game, dude. Like
Dude,
it's really bad decision.
the other
Because
thing that
if he is in that alliance with Ashley, he's sitting pretty. The fact that Cory and Jeremiah are his top 2 guys, what is going on here?
so 2 points, right? So I think Rob has brought up in the past that Nelson is very close with Amanda, right? So if he is very close with Amanda, what the fuck is he doing calling out one of his like most needed allies in the middle of a deliberation and telling her that her friend is one of the most untrustworthy people that he's ever met? We
I
didn't talk
just
about we didn't talk about this, so there's that, right? So there's that
yeah.
component of it. Nelson looks like crap there. Then, right before nomination, I guess this is before that moment, Nelson goes to Big T and Priscilla and talks about how he really needs his vote. Big T says, yeah, I think I'd be fine with that. I think I would be fine with voting for Ed and Ashley. Big T does not vote for Ed and Ashley. And when you look at the votes for last night, it wasn't close at all.
No.
There were no surprising votes. Everyone that you would think would vote for Ed and Ashley voted for Ed and Ashley. Everyone that you think would vote for Cory and Bettina voted for Cory and Bettina. Chalk all the way down.
Yep. It's uncanny to me. First of all, I want to go back to the Millionaire Mitchell moment where he's calling her out as not a good friend to Amanda.
Dude, we didn't talk about that all this morning, but like bring up the part about the gift card.
So apparently after Millionaire Mitchell, so like Amanda sticks her neck out on the line for Ashley in Final Reckoning and she goes home. And Ashley goes and steals $500,000 from Hunter in the final. And for thanks, Ashley sent Amanda a $500 gift card, is what Nelson says. And Amanda's pretty cool with it. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing, Nelson. All right, I hope he's listening to this. He's not, but I hope he is. If you're gonna go after somebody that way, don't. Because if you're real friends, the money doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? I have friends that make way more money than I do, and I don't beg them to pick up the check when we go out for beers. That's just not, it's not a real friendship if you're having to pass money back and forth and you feel sorry for me. I'm sorry, dude. Like, that's not how this goes. And the
I
fact
agree.
that she gave her friend a $500 gift card, that's cool, man. You know, the biggest gift card I've ever given somebody, $50.
Yeah, I didn't really get where he was coming from with it, to be honest. I think the way that you articulated it is exactly what I think as well. That like she shouldn't need to like give her any money. So it's like what amount of money did she need to give her for you to feel okay with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand? Was
Like,
there an agreement that was made that we're not aware of? Like, what would make me feel okay?
yep. It doesn't make any sense. And on top of that, Nelson, Amanda had a baby last year. How do you know Ashley didn't buy that kid like the Mac Daddy of all cribs? You know, like, who cares? It's none of your fucking business in that sense. And it was almost as if Nelson saw his number one ally sliding out of the house, and he went back to Nelson in not invasion, dirty 30 mode, where he just loses his mind for 5 minutes and forgets where he is and realizes he's made a fatal mistake.
I think and this is again something that we talked about earlier this morning as I'm reliving this episode. Uh, I think the real pivot point and deciding factor in who went to elimination happened in the conversation where CT, Kyle, Tori, and Devin sat on the grassy knoll and talked through what wanted to happen, right?
Yep.
CT wanted to put in Cory and Bettina. Devin wanted to put in Ashley and Ed. They talked back and forth, and it pretty much came down to the moment where Devin found out the true relationship that Cory had with Jeremiah and the rookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what it came down to. That there was some conversation about whether or not Cory told Jeremiah and Priscilla to select a vet pair after they won the last elimination, effectively in the veteran alliance, and cause chaos to ensue.
Mm-hmm.
He straight up asks Priscilla in deliberation whether or not Cory or anyone else told her to do that. Priscilla said, no one told me to do that. They flashed to a confessional of Devin and was like, I know she's lying.
Yeah.
What do
And
you
she
think happened,
was.
Trace? What? No one told her to do that. Who told her to do that?
I just thought it was funny. No, I mean, I think she legitimately figured it out, but at the same time, you're in the challenge and everybody's paranoid. You know, I don't care if you're Johnny Bananas, I don't care if you're Evan or Kenny on the ruins. You're still paranoid until you get to that final. The paranoia never goes away. So people, especially in now we're at a point where you're having to vote I don't know if you could call Devin and Cory friends, but like they're friendly at least.
I mean, this is after Devin earlier this season said he's tired of Cory and he doesn't want to hear about like how he has a daughter at home. Remember? So I don't know how good of friends they are.
Yeah, and so it's one of those deals where I just look at it and go, you're looking for an excuse to throw someone in that you're not thrilled about throwing in. Devin found his excuse to keep the rest of his alliance happy. And by the way, this might be the most political we've seen CT be in like 2 seasons. He actually sat down on camera and had a political conversation about who he wanted to throw in. We haven't heard that out of him in a while.
Yeah, so 2 points that I want to make here. I really do. I agree with you. I think they were just looking for a name, right? They were looking for anyone. They were looking for any excuse. It happened to be Cory's name that was floated pretty much immediately after elimination happened, where Cory spoke to Josh and Tori, and it came up with, how did Cory know that Priscilla was going to steal Josh or Kyle, right? Mm-hmm. He said going into it that she was going to steal one of them, both of people having veteran pairs. And he said, how do you think I knew? And pretty much insinuating, I think that Jeremiah told him. Mm-hmm. Josh tells that to the group back in the room later, and from there it's over, right?
It's done.
They found their narrative. They found their scapegoat. That was enough for them.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. 100% on that. It the other uncanny part of this is I know you're in Cory's place. You've got to throw anything you can against the wall to stay out, even if the decision's made. Like you want to piss off the raw. Like you almost want somebody else in that room who's up there on the chopping block right below you to have such an explosion that people have a change of heart, because that's the only way that vote was changing. There was no other way it was changing, and he knew that. But then
It
to
was
go
a
get pissy with Kyle afterwards was just such another dumb move. Like, it
yeah.
just shows me why Cory will never win this show. He's still, after being here for how many seasons now? Like 10? He's been around almost 8 to 10 seasons. Like, Bloodlines was season 25 or 6. I can't remember. But either way, he's missed, like, what, one season, maybe two in the last 10? I mean, this dude's never going to win if he doesn't figure this out.
It would take like a special circumstance, right? Like he would need to get paired with a very good partner, be it a man or a woman, that would be able to fill some of his deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think the same thing about Nelson, because like at this point, like who is Nelson aligned with in this game, right? Like who's left that he has like a
Cory?
really good relationship with? Cory,
Cory?
Jeremiah's gone. Big T just decided not to vote with him.
Nope.
I guess Priscilla, right? So let's go over the people that actually voted with Nelson this episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of weird. So Jeremiah voted with them.
Mm-hmm.
Amber voted with him. So both of them are gone. Tori, interesting enough, actually did. I didn't notice this earlier. Is that right? No, Tori didn't. This is really difficult to read on Wikipedia. Priscilla voted with Nelson. So there's one that's still left in the game. And then there's two left. Cory, which we knew.
Yep.
And Bettina, right?
Which
like they're like he has no allies at this point. No one else decided to choose to vote with Nelson and Cory.
Nope. That's why I think like you're more than likely to see Nelson and Cory go one-on-one in elimination again. I think that's coming. Like if you're the rest of the vets, that's an easy bone to throw out there.
So we talked about who we think our favorites are to win for the men and the women. That was something that we talked about earlier this morning. Mm-hmm. I think based off of the edit, there is a clear and definitive choice for the women.
It's Amanda, right?
No, Tori.
Tori? You really think they're giving her the hero edit?
Dude, so go back and watch this. After Amber B and Jeremiah lose elimination, they quickly go to Tori, and Tori talks about how Amber B going home is great for her chances in the game, and it means a lot for like her in the game, right? Like, why do they do that? You know what I mean?
It's a great question.
They're just showing, and there have been like a bunch of instances earlier in the season where Tori didn't necessarily need to be in the edit, right? And they flashed to her and they kind of like showed what she was thinking in the episode, instead of like her just describing what was going on. They were actually like giving like us like further insight into her thought process.
Mm-hmm. No, you could be onto something there. I really do. The only way I will counter it, and I'm not saying I believe this, I'm just saying here's the counter argument. They often just flash to people who are very articulate, and Tori's very articulate, and she doesn't need a whole lot of producing compared to some of the other people. So a lot of times they use them to help drive the narrative in a sense. And so you could be very right. I actually think you probably are right. But it could also just be them using the most well-spoken person to do it.
I agree. So let's talk about Amanda. She's been pretty quiet. So she did have a good edit, and I brought this up earlier today too, that there was the moment after the challenge. Ashley is freaking out. Josh goes in there. He says that he's going to try and save Ashley from going in, and she's crying. She's like, Josh, how can you be so stupid? Don't you know they want to throw me in? And they flash to Amanda in confessional, and she talks about how Ashley was just being completely paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, I don't know, I wonder how much of a change there really was for Ashley to go in, because it really seemed like, who are the people that we really saw that wanted to go for Ashley. It was pretty much Devin, right? I
Yep.
think that's the only person that we saw bring it up.
That's it. And he didn't even bring it up really to the group per se. He talked to Cory and said he wants to see a veteran non-champion win. It's not like he sat there on the grassy
He
knoll
did.
and threw
He
Ashley's
actually did.
name out there. Oh,
He
he
did.
did?
Yeah, because remember, so this is what happens. So the four of them talk, right? CT, Devin,
Mhm.
Kyle, and Tori. And Devin actually wants to go for Ashley. And this is like textbook political play. This is how you bring up the subject of you saying CT doesn't say, I'm not voting for Ashley. I want to vote for Cory. Let's do that. He doesn't say that.
Mm-mm.
He says something to the effect of, uh, why would you save Cory if Amanda asks? Right? Something
Mhm.
like something that suggests that that would be the smart move for him. And like what, like how he's asking Devin, like, how would that benefit him if Amanda
Mhm.
asks him to save Cory? Right?
Mhm.
And so that honestly, it's really interesting that we're not seeing more of Amanda because it does seem like she's kind of a driving force in this house, right? It
I
seems like
agree.
that would be one of the big reasons why Devin would not vote for Cory is because of something that Amanda came up to him and requested.
Yeah. It's entirely that is such an interesting point. I truthfully think if we want to talk about a winner's edit for Amanda, this would be Amanda's winner's edit. Every other season she's been on, she's seen as the spawn of Satan, and whether she actually is or not, I don't actually believe that. I think she's just very opinionated and she has no problem speaking her mind. And you get a couple cocktails in her and you really hear what she thinks and she goes insane. We have yet to see one Amanda like full on outburst. You know what I mean? Like we haven't seen her play into the character that she's been edited to be in past seasons. So for Amanda, this looks like a winner's edit because they're only showing her in mostly positive lights and standing up for her friends. That is usually not how they edit her.
There are, looking at the women now, there are 5 women that I feel pretty good about making the final.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, Ashley, Casey, Nani, and Tori.
Yep. I would
They're
say if it's 5 women, all 5 of them are the ones. It's probably
most,
4.
yeah, like that's what I was about to say. Is that most likely there will not be 5. Most likely there will be 4. I mean, what do you think the average number of finals contestants there have been over? This is a Greg
I,
question.
I think they're going to do 8. I think they're going to do 4 men, 4 women. I think 8 is the number they're heading for.
One of the most shocking things that came out of this morning's conversation that I was like really caught off guard by. What do you think Pat's opinion of the season is, or do you already know?
I don't know actually. I know that he has not been high on certain episodes, but as the entire season unfolds, I don't know what he thinks. So what does he think?
He said that he hasn't thought this season has been that bad, which I thought was like I was like not expecting that.
Yeah. I I can't say that that's shocking to me because there have been some good episodes. And compared to Double Agents, I would say this season is superior to that season the way that it has played out so far.
I don't know, dude. Like we just had that like
We had
3 week stretch.
that complete shit episode
Yeah,
a while back.
we had that one that was like legitimately one of the worst episodes ever of the show. Right? We had that
Mhm.
episode,
Yeah.
and then we had that episode that was really bad a couple weeks before that. But we had that one episode where Fessy decides to throw an Amber B and Amber B wins with
Yep.
Huey, right? And that
That
episode
was a
was
good
really
one.
good.
That was
So we've
good.
had the really good episodes that we've had are that episode where Amber B wins and comes back,
And
Fessy and
this
Josh
one.
blow up at elimination, and then we've had this episode, which have been very good.
Yeah,
But
and
there have
this
been
episode to me has been better than any episode from Double Agents. I think this episode was
yeah.
what I want to see. If this is the new era of the challenge, the way they edit it, the way they plan it, the way they do things, they need to strive for a consistency of this episode and not what we have seen to this point.
I told Rob when we first started the last episode that I was thinking to myself while I was watching this, like this is the best 8 episode since episode 4 of War of the Worlds 2. You know, like I was like,
Mhm.
what's been better than this? Like And then I thought about it more and like thought of some episodes that are probably better or close, right? But like in the moment, like I was loving this episode.
Yep. I agree. I feel very strongly about a couple episodes in Total Madness. The unedited D episode is
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. And I still think the Johnny West elimination is phenomenal because of my long-term investment in the show. To finally see the two of them go one-on-one in an elimination, they're going after each other, all of that stuff. Like, and they were working together, but they kind of had a thing where it was like West was like, "This is my best shot, so I've got to take it." Um, I feel very strongly that those two episodes from Total Madness are very good. I even think the episode where they double cross and throw Jordan in, where he's got to do pole wrestle with one arm or one hand, is a good episode too. So, like, as a whole, Total Madness, it has its flaws, but there were some really
Really good episodes.
strong episodes. There were also
There's
some
the,
really bad episodes. That Jenna Zach episode still makes me nauseous how bad it was.
but then
But
there's the Bear and Kayla stuff. There's the
mhm,
episode where Rob would be able to recite exactly what happened this episode. But there's the episode where Bear has the fire extinguisher. I think there was a bunch of other
yes.
stuff that happened then.
There's the one
Um,
where Nani throws her cup of noodles and that whole fight starts. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in Total Madness. If you go back and look at it as a whole, there's I don't know that as a whole it's like a phenomenal season, but it's a very good season with a lot of great moments and a lot of really bad moments. It's very back end, whereas Double Agents is just like a C plus all the way through. The first
we
couple
need
episodes are great, but the rest of the season it just never gets above out of second gear.
we need to do a re-ranking of the seasons again because we
Yes,
haven't
I
done
agree.
that in like a few
Two
years at this
years,
point.
two
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Uh, where do you think you
So
would have that in your all-time episodes? Where do you or all-time seasons? Where would you have Total Madness ranked?
out of 37 seasons,
In the back half, at least, right?
it'd probably be like 22 or 23, somewhere in there.
Yeah, like I think
Like,
that's reasonable.
there's just so many other seasons that are so much better than it that I could rattle off right now that I feel like the top 20, I don't know how I'd rank the top 20 yet, but I could rattle off 20 seasons better than Total Madness.
Rob brought it up earlier today, and I agree. This is the type of content that we want to be seeing from Cory, right? We
Yes.
don't want to hear about Cory's child that he has at home and
Nope.
him like coasting to the final and taking second or third place, right? We don't want to see
Nope.
that. We want to see Cory's back up against the wall. We want to see him out there trying to make some moves. We want to
Mhm.
see him fighting. And
Yeah,
I thought that this was a much better version of Cory than we've seen in years.
I agree. I mean, honestly, this is the most interesting he's been maybe ever, to be quite honest, because I wasn't that enamored with him on Bloodlines. I really wasn't that enamored with him on Rivals. I really did not care for him so much on Invasion because his one elimination's a joke where he grabs the coconuts and jumps off a cliff. Um, I was not really that impressed with him in Dirty 30. I mean, like, this really might be Pete Cory on the show, this episode.
I think Devin has the quote of the episode when he talks about how
I know what
Cory
you're going to say.
somehow Cory somehow won a puzzle elimination without ever actually touching a puzzle piece.
Yep. But you know what? At least Cory admitted it on the confessional. He's like, "Look, I know my weaknesses. This is it. I'm gonna let her do it." I give him so much credit for that. But it's gonna screw him in a final if he's on his own and he's got to do a puzzle.
Something that I thought was interesting is that coming out of last week, we thought that Priscilla would have a target on her back. Josh, at the start of this episode, said that he thought that they could be easy targets. We didn't see that at all. She was pretty much safe the whole time, and pretty much the opposite happened, right? We thought that Ashley was going to be gunning for Priscilla, and there was instead a faction of people that wanted Ashley out.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why when I ran into the cast member at Disney and we were talking, he's like, "I really think y'all are gonna like this season." after we were talking, and he's like, I think this is going to be really good. I think the back half of this season really might be bangers like this one, because the vets that are left, of those vets on the male side, what, Josh is probably the weakest, and he's still like better than a lot of people that go on the show. Is that fair to say?
What do you mean?
Like, in terms of a chance to win a final, like, I would probably rank Devin ahead of him to win a final, ironically enough. But like, Josh is still not like, he's not great, but he's not as bad as some of the people that could skate their way to a final. You know what I mean? Like, we've got some decent competitors here, and all of the vets are politically savvy enough, with the exception of maybe Nelson and Cory at this point, that it's going to be interesting to see how they play this out.
I mean, I think if you look at the men that are left, right? If all of them were in a final today, I think he probably has the worst chances out of all of them. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
and that's my
Okay.
point. But if you expand the field and include like the Hueys of the world and stuff like that, like, Josh is still
He's not the
in a
worst,
higher
right?
tier above those people.
I mean, yeah. So, like, I feel like we, at different points in time, we've each argued for kind of something similar about Josh, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there is a path to him winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a way that he could win, especially with his political prowess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Despite what you want to say about the guy, he's an emotional train wreck and he's a bull in a china shop. Uh,
He
he
knows who to
somehow
work
won.
with.
He somehow won Big Brother, right? Like he did
Yeah.
that. He's consistently made it far in seasons. Um, so I think I'm kind of fine with, now that I've had time to think about this since I watched this last night. I think I'm kind of fine with them going to individuals. And the more I think about it, I really think that they will go to individuals, because they left that comment in the credits or the previews for this upcoming episode where they talk about, someone says, I don't think that we're going to be pairs anymore, right? Like, why do you put
Mm-hmm.
that in unless you're actually going to be individuals, right?
Yep.
And
I agree.
I don't think they're going to go to teams, right? As much as I would want them to go to teams, I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
I think that I'm fine with them going to individuals now, whereas I wasn't for War of the Worlds 2, because this whole season they've been switching partners anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was that continuity that existed in War of the Worlds 1 that wasn't in this season.
Mm-hmm.
I really think this hurts Cory, though.
Mm-hmm.
This just gives them an easier way to go after Cory. And Cory, by winning that elimination, had a chance to pick a strong female now to be able to pick Casey and try and insulate himself a little bit more. Now this pretty much leaves him on an island.
Yep. I agree. I mean, the fact that his allies are gone, except for Nelson, basically, I think he's kind of done. And I just remember a comment Wes made on Total Madness, where they made the comment like, I look at who's left, and he's like, I know Cory's track record. I'd much rather take him than some of these other people because I know his track record. And Cory beats who he's supposed to beat, but Cory has yet to win an elimination against somebody that's at his level or higher.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, what's his most impressive elimination performance?
Well, you can't
Darrell
count the
last season?
final reckoning one that was fixed for him and Devin. I can't. Who did he go in against on Total Madness?
Here, I'm pulling it up now. Right, so
Yeah.
this is his elimination history. So he went in against Nate. He was partnered with, in Rivals 3, he was partnered with Ashley and went in against Nate and Christina, and he lost that.
Yeah, they lost that.
How the fuck does he lose that? What the fuck, dude?
With
I don't remember
Ashley,
that
no
at
less.
all.
You've got
Yeah.
Millionaire Mitchell, and you can't get it done. That's what
Do
I'm
you remember
saying.
that or no?
I do, because I watched it. I mean, they just weren't good, man. He wasn't good. And he had just come off of Battle of the Bloodlines, where he and his partner made the final. But that wasn't exactly hard that season. But then you get to Invasion, his elimination, I think it was it Bruno? Or who
Theo.
was it? Theo. Literally what happened is Theo didn't even do the elimination. They were on the side of the cliff, and it was whoever grabbed 3 coconuts the fastest and jumped off the cliff. That was literally the elimination. And Theo just didn't do it because he was scared of heights, basically. So that's not
Then
impressive.
then he goes against Nelson and Shane in that 3-way elimination.
He beat Shane
Dirty
because Nelson kind of went dirty on that one.
Dirty 30, he goes against Derrick Henry and wins. And then he goes
Not
against
impressive.
No. And then he goes against Hunter and loses.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes against Hunter in the Redemption House and loses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember that.
That was a big group challenge. They all were going at the same time.
Okay. And then in Vendettas, he goes against Nelson and loses. Final Reckoning, partnered with Devin, he wins twice. He beats Zach and Amanda, and he beats Jose and Devon.
Yep. And don't forget that the one that he and Devin won the first time to get in as mercenaries, they fixed the elimination for him. I don't care what anybody says. It was clear that all the mercenaries, they wanted them to enter the house and take out the other team. And it was clear watching that elimination that it was fixed for Cory and Devin. And that was the last season the Bad Girls Club people produced the show, because it was very obvious, A, how poor the season was, but 2, it was not a fair thing at all.
Then in Total Madness, he beats Swaggy C.
Oh, boy.
Who cares? Honestly, yeah. And then last season, he beats Darrell. So I think that's probably his most impressive elimination.
Best, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The point that I'll make with that is that one really does. Well, I mean, he beat him.
He beat him. You got to give him his props. He did beat Darrell.
Yeah, he beat him. And that one really just comes down to speed, right? Mm-hmm. He was just able to get to the point that actually mattered faster than Darrell. I don't know. Like, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. With the exception of Darrell, Cory beats who he's supposed to beat, but he doesn't beat anyone that's like at his level or higher. And you can argue that Darrell would be at or right below his level at this point, because Darrell's not an elimination guy. Darrell's only been in like 4 eliminations his whole career. No, maybe 5 or maybe 5. Because 5, because he did he went in on Fresh Meat 1 and won the Exile.
He's in 9.
Went in, say what?
9.
He's in 9. Okay, so he's done that one. He also did oh shoot. And I don't want to go back to the janky carnival game days, because those are just a roll of the dice.
I don't think he was ever in any of those. So he was in
Fresh Meat 2, he goes home first episode with Cara Maria.
He was in Fresh Meat. He was in. You're forgetting the ones that he was in against the Ruins that we just watched, right?
Well, the Ruins. Well, he beat Danny, which I love Danny, but come on.
Then he beats Kahutta. Yep. And then in Fresh Meat 2, loses with Cara Maria. And
Invasion is his next one.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some impressive ones. He beats Zach. He beats Bananas. And then loses to CT, right? In that really tough elimination.
Yep. If anything, that's pretty damn good there.
Yeah. Like, when we talk about, like, all-time best eliminations, how do we not talk about that one?
The CT, we did. The CT Darrell one we talked about when we did the top 6 eliminations. Yeah, we did talk about it. I don't know if it made our list. I think it made my honorable mentions. Like, it was close. But, I mean, Darrell, I guess really, it doesn't, I guess it kind of does defeat my argument a little bit. So what I will say is the Invasion ones are super impressive, because beating Bananas and Zach in the same season, that's, dude, if he'd have beaten CT in that, you could make the case that he made the best elimination record ever to beat the 3 of them. It's just unbelievable. But it also shows you that the odds against the vets that season were just so impossible at that point. I mean, think about that. Darrell had to go in against Bananas, Zach, and CT.
Dude, the whole format of that season was complete bullshit.
I agree. But regardless, Cory's best win is Darrell. Like, that is hands down his best win. And And I can't even make my argument because Darrell beat Bananas and Zach in the same season, so that kind of deflates that. But most of Darrell, other than those 2 elimination wins, he's not exactly beaten stellar competition.
All right, what else do we need to talk about?
There was a really funny moment at the beginning of the episode that I wanted to point out because it's some of the challenge foolishness that they don't show enough of, and I wish they would. And it was just so quick and subtle. If you weren't really paying attention, you didn't see it. When Tori was doing yoga and they showed her doing all the different yoga poses and stuff, they cut to Emmanuel on the porch and he takes his cereal bowl while he's watching Tori do yoga, starts balancing it on his head and doing like quasi fake yoga poses. That made me really laugh when I saw that. I thought that was funny.
I didn't think it was funny.
You
I
didn't
don't
think
know
it was
why,
funny?
dude. For whatever reason, I don't think Emmanuel's funny. I'm not like there's some rookies that I've enjoyed this season. He is not one of them. Like I just don't like all of his stuff seems really forced. I don't know. Like I don't think like the whole vampire thing is funny.
Nah, I think that is stupid.
I think Ed is great. Like I think Ed has like a pretty good chance to go far. Good at puzzles, smart guy, right? Like isn't he an engineer or something? Went
Yeah,
to an Ivy League school.
Ivy League.
Good at puzzles. I think I already said that. Who else have I liked for the rookies? Priscilla's great. Priscilla's my hero, like I said last week. Inviting her to my wedding when I have it.
Yeah, the elimination I want to see is her versus Ashley. I think that's going to be interesting.
All right, well, let's talk about this. If they go individuals next week, it really does seem like it might make it easier for them to just throw Cory in again.
Why wouldn't you? Why do you want to piss off anybody else when you can just throw Cory in and then let whoever wins the daily mission make the hard choice?
But that's the thing. That's why it doesn't make sense for me why Rob would think that they would just repeatedly throw in CT, right?
I don't think they'll repeatedly throw him in. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll try to catch him off guard one time against a matchup they like, but that's all you're going to get, and it's probably going to be. I mean, realistic. If you're the Nelson, Devin, Cory people, and you're going to throw CT in, you got to throw him in against Logan because I mean, if it's a puzzle, CT's going to dust everybody. If it's physical, to me, Logan's the guy that's the youngest and the one that's most likely to match him from an athleticism standpoint. Devin ain't beating CT in a physical elimination. Nelson would be the underdog, but it's possible. I have zero faith that Cory could beat CT in an elimination. Emmanuel, so far, I've seen nothing that shows me he could beat CT in an elimination, but there's a chance.
There are certain eliminations where Emmanuel, I think, would be able to beat him. Like I think he just like has a different skill set than CT.
Yeah. So like to me, your best matchup is Logan. Now, could Emmanuel be a good one? Sure. But I just don't. I mean, Josh versus CT. CT was like, give me the goof last year. I mean, there's like, not a whole lot of options here.
Yeah, because like anything that all of the things that like Nelson and Cory are good at, CT's good at too, but better, right? Mm-hmm. As we go down the list of the men, right? So we talked about the women that we think have a good chance to make the final. That group of 5, right? We feel really good about. Who do you feel really good about for the men to make it?
I mean, right now, as we stand, it's really hard for me to bet against CT. Like, I know we just got through talking about eliminations, but it's like the probability of him going in is, I think he'll probably go in once. But I just don't see a combination here that wouldn't have me favoring him against any of these guys. Maybe there's some where it's a little tighter. I just don't see it, especially in the shape he's in, the mindset he's in, like he's there to play. It's hard for me to vote against him. I think Devin's in an interesting spot because I could see someone up against.
Good about him.
I feel good about him going to the final because he's probably the one that you feel less threatened by in a final because his one final appearance, he was pretty bad with Cheyenne.
I feel good about
Kyle
Devin.
is the one that's going to get
Yeah.
screwed again. He's going to get
No,
thrown
dude.
in the last episode.
I feel good about Kyle, dude. Like, I really do feel good about him. Like, he's
You do.
really under the radar right now. Yeah.
For now.
Like, is he gonna win? I don't know. Like, probably not. But could he get there? Yeah. I mean, how many finals appearances do you think Kyle has had?
He's had 2 or 3. He definitely went in Vendettas because that was his first season. He didn't go in Final Reckoning. Was he in War of the Worlds 1's final, or did he go home?
He was in 2. He was in Vendettas and Total Madness. So
okay.
out of...
I knew he was in Total Madness because he's had to stand outside before they let them go inside.
So out of 7 seasons, he's made 2 finals.
Pretty good average.
And he makes it far into seasons. Like, how many times has he gone home, like, really early?
I think War of the Worlds 2 might be the earliest he's gone home.
When he lost that close elimination to Theo.
And he kind of got blindsided.
All right. What else do we want to talk about before we leave?
I think we pretty much covered it, man. Like, I think just from a parting thought standpoint, I really enjoyed this episode. And those of you from Butte and Murray, if you're listening, this is the type of stuff I would love to see. This is the stuff I get excited about when we get ready to record. This is the stuff that I get excited about just watching as a fan. Like, All Stars is its own thing. And I get that the main show has to evolve, and I get it. But, like, what we saw tonight, that was good television. Like, I really enjoyed what we saw. It was simple, straight to the point, and you got to see people who knew how to play the game going at it. So give me more of this.
You have to create an environment where this occurs, right? And what they did through the first 8 episodes did not create that environment, right? The season, by design, is fundamentally flawed because they were allowed to pick any 2 people. The people that won the daily mission were allowed to pick any 2 people to go into elimination, and as a byproduct, send in 2 rookies, right? And this cycle would have continued. So, I mean, there were 2 issues, right? It was flawed from that angle, and it was flawed from the angle that they brought a bunch of rookies on who didn't know what the fuck they were doing and kept selecting and wouldn't select a veteran pair to essentially end the cycle and only leave veteran rookie pairs left. So you really, like, I mean, I think if I was them, after like the first or second episode, I would have been like, all right, you can no longer pick any 2 people. You have to pick a pair. That's the twist, right? Episode 3, make a big deal out of it. Put it in the trailer. Get everyone hyped up for it. Who the fuck is not going to be excited about that?
Yep. All in.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We're planning on doing another episode toward the end of the week for patrons. I think we're most likely going to do an All-Stars 2 preview episode for either the men or the women, or we could just do half of the cast. We'll see what we decide to do in anticipation of All-Stars 2, the release announcement happening sometime soon. We're pretty confident that it's
very
not far
soon.
away.
And if you are not a patron yet, we just covered episodes 3 and 4 of The Ruins, and what we think was a great episode, as does the current patron. So it'll eventually be public, but many months from now. So if you want to get a head start and start listening to our Chronicles of the Ruins, episodes 1 and 2 are covered in one episode, and 3 and 4 in another. So jump on that.
What else? Discord. If you're not in Discord, go hop on. We've had some more people hop on recently. Everyone seems to love it. I think that's about it. Wish Rob best wishes. He's currently on his way to Pittsburgh to watch Drew Lock play against the Broncos once he heard that he was going to start. And he said he couldn't miss it, so he's on his way out there right now.
Fanboying's got his jersey ready to get signed and send to Devin.
What else? I think that's it. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. So after we're done with this, I guess we're not. If you want to listen to 35 minutes of the content that we did record from this morning with Pat, you can listen to that after this. We'll just roll right into it and leave you what actually occurred. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.